It's May 28th at 7 PM. I hereby call this meeting of the Emmitsburg Planning Commission to order. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on our agenda tonight is to review and approve the minutes from last month's meeting. Does anybody have any questions, comments on it?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
Shouldn't the date at the top be something else, not March 26th?
It was a typo that I made. I didn't catch it after it went out.
Oh, you know, you get it,
Yeah.
it should be April 29th,
Should be April and March, yeah.
April 29th,
Because I used that, I think the previous one.
because I did attend that meeting.
Okay.
Oh,
Any other comments, questions on it? If not, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
so be it. Motion approved.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
Oh, I didn't have my.
and the vote to approve the minutes, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Minutes are approved, 5-0. Okay. Hey, Eric, see what you signed up. You want general comments or is there a specific thing in the agenda you? Okay, it's fine. It's what I wanted to add. Okay, so we'll move on to our old business. The first one is discussion of the most recent draft of the comprehensive plan. See that in there? Does staff, any comments they want to make?
Sorry, did you mean the growth boundary or the timeline?
This is for the draft of the comprehensive plan. You have in there is the old business. Oh, wow, sorry, I'm reading the wrong sign. It helps if I. I'm pulling last month's business, sorry. It's the growth boundary. Sorry, you were right. I was.
Yeah, no, we don't have a draft for tonight, but we'll just focus on the growth boundary
Okay,
and I'll continue our discussion from last time. To expand the growth boundary, the proposed map on the screen. That includes properties along Track Road and Route 140. And as mentioned before, the purpose of this inclusion of these properties into the growth boundaries to allow for annexation in the future. There's water and sewer present in some of these properties, and I believe there's up to 60 to 70 parcels that are residential in nature. So the county zone them as residential, and some of them are agriculture. So the one in Hatch Green is agricultural, so we just left it like kept that zoning and the rest of it as low density residential. This will accompany a municipal growth element chapter that staff is working on for now. And that's based on population projections and needs for land, future land and infrastructure. But tonight I just really wanted to bring up the zoning of the proposed growth boundary, and yeah, that's about it.
does anybody have any questions about the map?
With
ahead.
inclusion of these 60 or 70 properties to the growth boundary, how does that affect the availability of water and sewer for properties that are already within town that have not been developed but could be developed in the future? Like, what does that do for our availability?
Sure. So I'll answer that. So this would just set the stage for potential annexation of these properties. It does not require that they be annexed in the property into the town. So in terms of impact on properties already within the town, versus these properties that are not currently in the town, I think the answer to your question is there would be no impact until either the town or the residents of these areas that we're looking at decided to move forward with an annexation, which would then go through the entire annexation process. The Board of Commissioners would vote on that, et cetera. So no real impact, I think, is the short answer to your question.
Anybody have any other questions? Okay, on the map, I know where the town's looking at the proposal to annex some property on the, on the west side of 15, we have a residential, it's looking to be annexed. So I'm correct in the plan here, you're showing that as low density residential proposed in the plan? Okay, how far along are we in the annexation process?
Oh, we haven't gotten any applications or anything like that.
Okay, so their attorneys haven't contacted.
No, nothing concrete yet. Yeah,
Okay.
just interested parties, like.
Yeah, I know they
inquiring,
would
but-
talk to their attorney. I just didn't know how far
Okay.
along it had gotten. Okay. Anyone else? Questions?
Where's that property that you're talking about?
So if on the map, you come up here, see where this pink is?
Mm-hmm.
That'll be up in here, this property up in there.
Oh, okay.
So we're looking at the owners asked the town preliminary to annex it, so the paperwork's moving along but they were interested in annexation. Anyone else? Questions? Anything else? Not Dale, you want to? Just, what's your name?
Sure. Eric Soder, 2070 Pembroke Court. And also by way of background, because I know I've met some of you, but not all. I am a certified land planner. And previously was, in a prior life, was director of planning for Frederick County for a number of years. But now I'm working in the private sector for Rogers Consulting, but here just speaking as a resident, but obviously just want to share some thoughts. Don't have any issues with, the current growth boundary as you talk tonight. But one thing I want to suggest, I'm going to hand out something, is to consider, in my experience with growth boundaries around municipalities, sometimes municipalities find themselves boxed in the future because you draw a growth boundary, it's hard and fast, it's on a specific property line. And there's always issues or opportunities that arise that none of us can anticipate. There could be some type of economic development opportunity or some type of infrastructure opportunity. Even I guess here tonight, you're kind of dealing with an issue that you want to address. And what some other municipalities have done, even Frederick County is included in their Livable Frederick Master Plan when they're looking at their future growth areas around non-municipal areas. But even the city of Frederick has recently done it, has had a more, beyond the formal growth boundary, as you see it in red, is sort of a fuzzy line, and you can choose, half mile or quarter mile, but then provide supporting documentation or supporting text in your plan that just indicates that, if the right opportunity comes along or the right issue is in front of you, the town would entertain that annexation. It doesn't mean that there would be leapfrogging or things like that, and you still control, when that annexation occurs, and water and sewer would still have to be available and all those other things. But something to consider. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to provide this map. I will send a color copy to Najila and she can send it around, but I just kind of got home and I was looking at it and I worked this up real quick. I'll pass this around. And again, the idea is to, have maybe a second tier that you don't necessarily pick, exact property lines. You take like a quarter mile just to indicate that beyond the growth boundary, there may be that opportunity that you want to entertain in the future. So something to consider, and I'd be happy to work with your staff in developing the appropriate text so everyone can be ensured that, wouldn't be leapfrog development. It still would have to be contiguous. So just something to consider, and thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Eric? No. So, Najila, what would have to be done to do like what he's discussing, just to draw basically a cocoon around our proposed areas?
So we can put together the map and the text that he mentioned, and it would have to also go through the county and the state before it's adopted.
So it would be no different than our current, what we have to do now.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So looking at the map, general, that Eric's drawn, everybody should have seen a copy now. What's,
I would anticipate you would do this as part of your comp plan update, not separate from it. So it
Right,
wouldn't be
I
something.
get
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I just, what's people's opinion of that? Got a comment?
I think it's a good idea. I think it allows us to be more flexible with things in the future.
Okay. Valerie, you look like you had a comment.
Did you say a quarter mile outside or what was the distance?
Yeah. I mean, you can choose what you want in terms of what it is. I quickly scaled that off because assuming the question would come, and because I just did this in Photoshop just to see, did a buffer. That's about 2,000 feet from your current growth boundary, just so you can see it on there. I was able to scale it from where the growth boundary is, and it backs up to Scott Road. That just happened to be, I just, chose something and I just wanted to see visually what it would look like. But you could choose, like something quarter mile or something like that. But the idea is just something beyond your existing growth boundary. Because if you look at your growth boundary, I mean, for the most part, that's probably is tightened in, because when we talked about at the workshop, there are some properties that are already in ag preservation. But you can see there's always a couple little parcels that may come in, and you just don't want to be stuck in a situation where, gosh, I wish we had to do that. And then you're going to have to go back, update your growth, plan, and go through at least a 90-day process. If you can somehow build the flexibility in now, and but I always call it flexibility with handcuffs. You still have the handcuffs that you guys control in terms of when it would come online and how it would come online. So again, just something to consider. Now, I'll be happy to share some information to Najila about how the city of Frederick has done it, and then maybe provide some additional information to you all at the next meeting just to continue the conversation.
Any? Valerie?
Clark, do you have any thoughts on it? Have you?
So I'm not familiar with that specific method, but I mean, generally speaking, the point is well taken that what you're doing here is you are setting your outer boundary for growth for the town, right? Because if a property is not within the growth boundary, it can't be annexed. And if you come to something later down the line between now and when you revise this next, you're going to have to, as he mentioned, go through at least a 90-day process to change things, to add it before you even get into the annexation process. So you do want to be mindful that you are not handcuffing yourselves too tightly, or if you do, the choice is yours. Ultimately, the decision is, do we want to give ourselves more flexibility, maybe expand things out a little bit more, whether by just moving the boundary itself or doing what he just proposed. I think that's really what staff is looking for tonight directionally, so that, she can figure out
Where to go?
where to go or where you guys want to go.
Okay. So what's general consensus? I think I'm hearing that we'd rather have an additional buffer. Would that be a correct statement to make?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments about that, or concerns at how far you want it out, or is there something too far you think going
You
out?
could say in the city of Frederick, is there any other towns that does similar thing? Do you know?
can certainly check. I know in developing the livable Frederick master plan, they did that as well. And it was interesting because the planning commission actually came up with it because it was a kind of at the end and staff were presenting the maps and they said, gosh, those lines are really property specific. What if something comes in and they asked staff to kind of make more of a blended line beyond the growth line but with a supporting text. And I think that's the important thing because you just don't want to have a line and it's going to be a quarter mile and it means like, yes, you can come in. The supporting text is the handcuffs that allows you all to really control it. And I'd be happy to share some of that with Najila, but I can see if there's other municipalities that do it, but I know the Frederick County for their, yeah.
Some people that wanted to annex in property in Thurmont, and Thurmont turned them down.
Right. And that's the prerogative and how the system works is even if it is in the growth area, you don't have to annex depending on the, the issues at hand and the timing. So there's
That trick of parties tried several times.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. So, yep. Now, good feedback. Well, I'll take a look and see if
I
there's,
just wonder if there's another.
some more examples to look at. Yep.
Give us something to work from.
Yep. I agree. I'll take a look at that.
For the boundaries change, does it have to go to the Board of Commissioners to approve?
So it will have to go to the county, I believe. And then ultimately the entire plan is going to end up at the Board of Commissioners. It's not going to be just specifically that piece will wind up there. So yes, in the grand scheme of things, but no, it's not going to sort of be,
So you would like to put this update in the comprehensive plan?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I think then the direction we're hearing is let's give us some more wiggle room and look at expanding it out from the current thing. That way, just gives us some more room if opportunity arises in some of those properties. So Eric, if you could send that information over, it'd be appreciated. Is there any other comments on this before I move on?
I
No,
guess I would just wonder what impact it would have on our water and sewer infrastructure. If we were to add an additional buffer, like how many additional parcels would there be? Do we have sufficient taps? I know we would still have to annex it in,
Mhm.
but overall, what would the impact be? If we extend that radius?
So
I know we don't know yet.
we don't know for sure, but as you can always, expand water and sewer capacity as part of an annexation agreement.
Mhm. Correct.
Yeah, so that is something the town would have to look into in the future. Because as of right now, I believe there's like 222 water taps. Obviously, that's not gonna support all the annexation that's been shown on the map. But in the future, as we annex more lands, work with developers, that'll be the way to go, to have them contribute to a fund for expanding water infrastructure.
so just to draw up the proposed plan, we don't have to state, hey, we're gonna need X water taps or anything like that. We're just saying, this is our proposed growth plan. We don't need to justify that with any water numbers or anything like that, correct?
Correct. Because ultimately in the actual annexation process,
Right.
that's going to be a very material point as to whether
Yeah.
it's a good idea or should,
Right. No,
be voted upon. So
I
yeah.
agree. But I'd rather have that debate then than give us some time now. So if we could work on expanding those lines out and see what we can do. Next on our agenda for the old businesses, the comprehensive plan update.
So I just wanted to go over the timeline a little bit. Obviously, things have shifted. We have more to work on right now.
Okay.
We were initially looking at over the summer for the 60-day public comment period, but it would have to be pushed back. I know it says September and October, but it also depends on when we get to send our plan to the county and when we hear back from them. So this is a tentative timeline. And Of course, the goal was to have it finished by the end of this year, but given the pace and the work we have to do, that's unlikely. But as long as we work with the county, the state, even if it's later than the end of this year, that should be okay.
Okay. And I know we're also still getting comments from the groups. I know Diane's got one, and we have the one coming up, what's it? The first at 1,
Huh?
the meeting, Diane's meeting with June the 10th at 1 PM down there. We're still trying to set up. I don't have the time for a meeting with FEMA to discuss with them and get their highlights. In the last meeting, we got some incomprehensive results, but they wanted to do a private survey to get from that community. So Diane's working on that. Now Diane Stoll, we're talking to the Lions and all the social organizations also. We haven't got feedback from them yet. So anyone else have questions about the timeline? Nothing? Everyone's good? Okay. Then we'll move on to our new business. And I think we have on new business is the annual planning commission report. Staff?
So the state requires that the planning commission or a similar entity from any municipality to submit an annual report as required under section 1-207B of the land use article. And so this year, like in 2024, we'll be doing a report for the year 2023. And there's a few questions for us to answer, like the number of residential permits issued and whether there's been any growth related changes. And also whether, well, number 5 is a fairly new one. I don't think they had this last year, but to identify any recommendations related to the following planning topics, and there's the list of topics. So we put some regarding zoning reform and water and sewer capacity. And for 6 and 7, those are the usual questions, and yeah.
Does anyone going over the documents have any questions, comments to make? You got anything, Val?
That looks good.
Okay, just a question on number 3 about rezoning. Is that rezoning of anything within the town boundaries, or is it something specific we're looking at?
The way I understand it, it's just growth related. So any expansion.
Okay,
I know we did our floating zone. So
and we changed one that was zone commercial over to residential.
that was in the previous year,
Was it the
not,
previous year?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. That was the only question I had. No one else? If that is,
I'm the one that's holding up the 7 there.
okay,
I haven't completed the course yet. In case anybody's wondering,
okay. It's not that hard to get through the course.
I'll take care of it this coming month.
Okay. Okay, so I guess everything's, when do you need to have this letter signed and submitted by?
So it has to be filed with the Board of Commissioners, and it's due July 1st to the
Okay.
Maryland Department of Planning.
Okay, give me a clean copy and I'll sign it tonight before I
I have it right
leave.
here.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything? Because that concludes everything we have on our agenda. No, it's just comments. So nothing else? Nothing stand. Okay. Well, we do, sorry. We do have to approve the planning commission report. We just can't. Okay. Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the planning commission report?
Motion to approve the planning commission report?
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor of approving it, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Planning Commission annual report is approved 5-0. Okay, with nothing else on the agenda, it's 7:25. The Planning Commission meeting is now adjourned.